Welcome back. So, to start off, we are going to go through each game this weekend and we're going to predict the score. I have already picked these games on the podcast that came out on Monday. I have changed my mind about some of these picks, but I have not changed my team and my prediction. So, we'll get into that when we get to the games that I'm talking about. But as always, welcome to the Purple Jaguar. So, this week has been kind of boring. Your typical, before playoff news and predictions and what people think is going to happen. What Vegas thinks is what drives a lot of the commentary throughout the week. Also, who's injured, who's out, who's in. Is Lamar going to play? Is he not going to play? Lamar's not playing. He's not playing. It was reported that his knee feels unstable. I'm going to put that in quotation marks. I think his pocketbook feels unstable, but he is not going to play. The Dolphins do not know if they're going to start Teddy Bridgewater or Skylar Thompson. I predict it'll be Skylar Thompson. Teddy Bridgewater dislocated his pinky and his throwing hand. He is an average thrower of the football as is. I think if there's anything to compromise that, they're better off just going with the rookie and chalking it up. They're playing a powerhouse in the Buffalo Bills, and I think they can lean on the run game to keep it a close scoring game, but I do not believe that they're going to win this game with anybody other than maybe Tua. They did beat the Buffalo Bills earlier in the year with Tua, but as far as other big injury news, Tampa Bay might be getting their starting center back. Mike Williams seems to be doubtful to questionable for his game with the LA Chargers. So that's not going to change or affect my picks. I'm still going to stay with the same picks, and I'm going to tell you what I think the scores are going to be. But I do have some adjustments that I will make on the back end of these picks. First and foremost, I want to talk about last night. And last night I watched basketball for the first time this year. I watched start to finish a basketball game in the NBA for the first time this year. A little late, I'm aware, but typically the NBA doesn't really pick up until the second half in the playoffs anyways. But I had the chance, and it was on TV, to watch the Dallas Mavericks play the Los Angeles Lakers. And that game was a stinker. LA does not have shooting. When Russell Westbrook is making half of your threes, that's a problem. And I feel like LA outplayed them in defense. They out-hustled them. They out-rebound them. But you cannot make up for another point added on when you can shoot threes as well as twos. And LA was never going to win that game. I watched. I'm a huge LeBron fan. Been a LeBron fan for 20 years since he's gotten to the league. And I followed him through every team that we've decided to go to. And he's on LA, and he had a mediocre game, a poor shooting night. This is when I turned the game off. So I watched the entire game. I even went into overtime, watched that, and then I watched the second overtime. I turned the game off with about 32 seconds left in the second overtime after LeBron threw up a step back, fading to the right three with 16 seconds left in the shot clock. I turned the game off. Of course he missed, and of course they lost. They lost a very winnable game that they played very hard. They had a lot of hustle. They had a lot of emotion in the game. It was kind of getting pretty frisky toward the end between Luka and Russell Westbrook, who I thought played fantastic defense on Luka. They had a smart game plan going in. They doubled Luka. They blitz doubled him. And they just can't score the ball. They cannot score the ball. When the Lakers walk up the court to play offense, I have no idea who's going to take the shot, but I can tell you this. If it's behind the three-point line, probably not going in. I watched LeBron airball a three. I watched another, I don't know his name, player airball a three. I watched this one guy, I think his name was Brown Jr. is his last name. Every time he shot a three-pointer, just expected it to be completely off target. So I think the LA Lakers have some issues. I don't foresee them being fixed. unless they make a blockbuster trade to get a shooter at the deadline. But even then, they need like 3 of them. And so I guess I'll watch LeBron play regular season basketball until he's done with his career. Now, let's get to the NFL playoffs because that's a lot more interesting to me. So our first game, Seattle Seahawks versus the 49ers. Now, I picked the 49ers, of course. 49ers are favored from Vegas by 9 points. That means they are giving Seattle 9 points. I think the score of the game is going to be 49ers 31, Seattle Seahawks, I want to say 14. I was going to say 17. That's why I had to pause, but I think 14. Maybe 13 if they kick field goals instead of score touchdowns, but I don't think it's going to get out of the teens. So let's just do this. 49ers 31, Seattle Seahawks 14. I don't think it's going to be a close game. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I think that Seattle is going to be demoralized on offense because the 49ers have one of the best defenses in recent memory, honestly, with Nick Bosa. He's going to win Defensive Player of the Year. They have 2 super talented linebackers. They play a nickel, and so they only normally have 2 linebackers on the field. That's Greenlaw and that's Warner, and those 2 linebackers are elite level, the best duo in the league by far. I think that Brock Purdy is going to continue to cook on offense. He has the best situation. Deebo Samuel is quietly coming back. Nobody's talking about it. But he hasn't had Deebo Samuel for the last 2-3 games. He's coming back off injury. Christian McCaffrey's hitting stride. They have the running back that just got back, Eli Mitchell. And he's going to add a pop for a backup running back. Oh, my goodness. I think the 49ers are going to be a handful for any team in these playoffs. So, 31, 49ers 31, Seattle Seahawks 14. Next game on the slate, Chargers and Jaguars. Now, originally, I picked the Chargers to win. I said they have too much talent on both sides of the ball, that I think Justin Herbert's a better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence, in the NFL at least. I'm going to stick with that pick because I picked him. But I am leaning more toward Jaguars now. But since I chose the Chargers at the beginning of the week, I'm going to stick with them. But I'm going to say the game is 24-21. So Vegas is giving the Chargers a 1.5. I think that if the Chargers do win, and that's what I'm predicting to win, they're going to win by at least 3. And it's going to be a relatively mid-level scoring game. I think that the defenses are going to take advantage of both these starting quarterbacks having the playoff jitters. This is going to be both of their first time in the playoffs, in the postseason. So I really think that they are going to make some mistakes. I wouldn't be surprised to see 2 interceptions between the 2 of them thrown. And what I mean by that is one of them is going to throw 2, or they're both going to throw 1. So I think they are going to have some jitters. So it's going to be a relatively low-scoring game, I guess you would say, for the newer NFL. But I like the Chargers. I liked them more with the possibility of Mike Williams playing, but I don't know if he's going to be able to play. So I am going to stick with my pick. I'm going to take the Chargers 24, the Jaguars 21. Moving on, Sunday slate. We have 3 games. I love the playoffs. I love being able to just focus on one game at a time during the playoffs. You just watch that one game. Okay, cool. And then watch the next game. You know, flipping back and forth during regular Sundays. And then go figure, you have one game that's worth watching. And then you have another game that's like the Patriots versus the Jets. I guess I'll watch it during commercials. But in the playoffs, you get premium football, one game at a time, and I love it. So, to start off Sunday, we have the Dolphins and the Bills. Now, Buffalo is favored. This is why I think Skylar Thompson's going to start for the Dolphins. Buffalo is favored by 13.5 points via Vegas. Why that is important is because Buffalo has lost one game to the Miami Dolphins, and then they played a very, very close winter storm game against the Miami Dolphins, where the Miami Dolphins were up in the fourth quarter. Buffalo ended up winning, I think, by 2 or 3 points. But these games have been very competitive. Both, however, with Tua Tagovailoa as the starter for the Dolphins. He's obviously out. I think Skylar Thompson's going to start. Now, I don't think Buffalo's going to cover. I don't think they're going to cover the point spread. I think 13.5 is a lot. That's win by 2 touchdowns. Now, the Bills have always had this Mike Tyson feel. This is not my words. This is other sportscasters' words. But they've always had this Mike Tyson feel where they're going to knock you out. They either knock you out or allow you to stick around, and then they typically lose those games about 50% of the time. I do not think that they are going to have that knockout punch for the Dolphins because they are in the same division. This will be the third game that they've played against each other, and I think the Dolphins can run the ball against the Bills. However, the Dolphins starting running back, Morset, or I think that's how you say his name, is hurt. He got hurt last game. I think it was his ankle, and I don't know how available he's going to be for this game on Sunday. But I know they have Jeff Wilson, and Jeff Wilson is a starting running back for the 49ers prior to this. And so I think he can carry the load. I think if you're playing fantasy, if you're playing in one of those fan duels, I think Jeff Wilson might be a good running back to pick up this weekend. Just throwing that out there for those of you that do that. I think he's going to have over 100 yards rushing. I think that the Dolphins are going to run heavy, and then they're going to get into some short passing game with Skylar Thompson. I do not think Skylar Thompson's going to throw a pick this weekend. Unlike the Jaguars and Chargers game, I think that the Dolphins are going to call plays in such a way that he's not going to kind of be left out to dry to make a lot of decisions or to put the ball in harm's way. I think if they turn the ball over, it will be a blowout and Buffalo will cover the points. But if they don't, and they're able to just kind of control the clock by running with Jeff Wilson and short passes, screen passes to Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle, I think that they can make this game at least interesting. I do predict the Bills will win the game, though. So I'm going to say the score is 31, Buffalo 31, Dolphins 21. I think the Dolphins will be able to score 21 points against the Buffalo Bills defense. I think Buffalo will still score enough points, but I don't think 13.5 is a lot of points to cover. There's just a lot of points to cover in that game. I don't like that line. If you're betting these lines, I would stay away from it because that's just a lot of points. Unless you're betting for Dolphins. All right, Next game, the Giants and the Vikings. Now, this is another one of those games like the Chargers and Jags where I picked the Giants to win. And I'm having some second thoughts about that, but I stick with my picks. So if the Giants are to win, I think the score will be 21-17. Actually, I'm going to reframe. I'm going to say 21-19. Why I'm saying that is because I think if the Giants were to win, they're going to make the Vikings kick field goals. That's why, and that's how I think the Giants would win, is that the Vikings are still going to be able to move the ball up and down the field. They have the best talent at any skill position, in my opinion, in the league, in Justin Jefferson. I mean, the dude's unreal. So I think the Vikings will be able to move the ball up and down the field. If the Giants are to win this game, they are going to make the Vikings kick field goals instead of allowing them to score touchdowns. I still do not think the Giants have a good offense. I think Daniel Jones can be limited. I would love to see Daniel Jones get a wide receiver like DeAndre Hopkins in the offseason. A 1. Give him a 1. A true blue number 1 wide receiver. Not an Odell Beckham. No offense to him, but he's injury prone. He spent his last 2 years with the Giants injured. Not a work in progress like Kadarius Toney that was just traded away to the Chiefs. He needs a 1. He is a average quarterback as far as throwing the ball is. He adds an extra element because he can run the ball. But if you give him a 1, I think you're going to see him go to another level. Honestly. I think if you gave Daniel Jones a number 1 receiver, a DeAndre Hopkins, a Devontae Adams, a Jamar Chase, a Justin Jefferson, somebody like that who can pretty much you can target 10 times a game and he's going to catch the ball 8 of those 10 times. I think you'd see Daniel Jones take another leg up. I think he's better than Kirk Cousins. If I had to pick a quarterback from this game, I would take Daniel Jones. I think Kirk Cousins is a system quarterback. He's benefited from having weapons. I mean, Adam Thielen was a number 1 wide receiver. So you got Adam Thielen as your number 2. You got KJ Osborne, who I think is a solid number 2 on any other team. You have Justin Jefferson, and best receiver in the league this year. Has the most receiving yards, most receptions, best receiver in the league. Then you have Henderson at tight end, which was a midseason trade. Fantastic trade by the Vikings. But you have that security blanket. Henderson's top 5 tight end in the league. I think Daniel Jones is better than Kirk Cousins. I just don't think Daniel Jones has had the weapons. Yeah, sure, he has Saquon Barkley. I don't think Saquon Barkley is holding Christian McCaffrey's cleats. Again, just my opinion, but Saquon Barkley has a history of injuries. He's very hit and miss on running the ball. He could explode for a 150 to 200-yard game, or he could have 12 carries for 41 yards. You don't know. I think the Vikings do have a poor pass defense. I think they have an okay run defense. I think the Giants make this game ugly. They come off a week of rest where they rested all of their starters. I can see a way for the Vikings to win this game. And I think if the Vikings were to win this game, just throwing this out there, it would be more like a 35-21 game where the Vikings are just hitting on all cylinders. They're scoring the ball at will. They're getting in the end zone. So I think for the Giants to win this game, and my pick to be accurate, the Giants have to keep them out of the end zone and make them kick field goals. Therefore, I'm calling the score 21-19. But if you do like spreads and you like betting these games, I think the Giants getting 3 points. I would take the Vikings giving the 3 points because I think if the Vikings do win the game, it's not going to be a close game. I think the Vikings are just going to be able to score touchdown after touchdown. But we'll see what happens. I'm excited for this game. This is one of the only games actually this weekend that I'm excited to watch and just see what happens. But like I said, sticking with my picks. Next game, Ravens-Bengals. So the line right now is 8.5 points. Bengals, 8.5. They're giving the Ravens 8.5 points. The Ravens are not going to have Lamar Jackson. The Ravens are going to play tough defense. I think that this is going to be another Cincinnati Bengal run like last year, where they are competitive games against these other teams, but Joe Burrow in the end pulls it out. I think last year they played the Raiders in the first round. The Cincinnati Bengals played the Raiders in the first round, and the score of the game was 26-19. So again, wasn't a pretty game, but the Bengals pulled it out in the end. However, I see this one being, I would say 27. So Bengals kick 2 field goals. Yep. So 27-13. I don't think it's going to be close. I think if you were to take the Bengals giving up the points this week, not a bad bet. The Ravens just played them. They played them tough, sure. But the Bengals do something different in the playoffs, and their game planning and scheming is very interesting. Now, one caveat to that is that the Ravens did rest J.K. Dobbins last game. J.K. Dobbins can run the football, and I would not be surprised. That's another one if you play those fantasy. Jeff Wilson, J.K. Dobbins, running back combo. I might do it. But I really like the Bengals in this one. I don't think it's going to be close. I think they're going to turn off their playoff swag, and the Ravens are going to fold. Just too many injuries on offense. Not having Lamar Jackson, and that's how your entire offense is set up, makes it really tough. Last game. Cowboys, Buccaneers, Monday Night Football. Put it on prime time, baby. Everything for the Cowboys. It's got to be big. It's got to be huge. Cowboys are going to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has a grass field. This has become a big subject in the media this week, is that the Dallas Cowboys are 11-1 on turf, and they're 1-4 on grass. And so people are taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to shock the world and the Cowboys nation with a win. and Tom Brady is going to be the old Tom. I am not picking it that way, however. I'm going to take the Cowboys. I don't think it's going to be a close game. I honestly think the Cowboys are going to control the game from start to finish. They're going to run the ball with Zeke and Tony Pollard. They're going to have success doing that. I think they're going to limit Dak Prescott throwing the ball. So I think he throws it 28 to 31 times this game. They're going to have a full Cowboys game. Normally, teams that are with above average quarterbacks and above average talent do not get blown out, do not lose badly twice in a row. Again, something else I heard in the media, I like the Cowboys. I think Tom goes home. That team is not talented. Tom Brady cannot be throwing the ball 45 to 50 times a game at 45 years old and then continue to win. They have been playing their bad division for opponents, and that is where they've had their success. They played the Cowboys the first week of the season, and the hype was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That is no longer there. I think Tom Brady gets sacked 4 to 5 times. I think the Cowboys win handily. I'm picking this game 35-17. So that is my picks for the weekend. We will check back on Monday and see how right I was or how wrong I was. But thank you once again for tuning in. If you are checking this out on YouTube, you can find me on Spotify and Apple Podcasts under The Purple Jaguar. And for those of you that have been listening to the podcast, I just thank you. This is a dream come true for me, and I look forward to continuing to provide content. Have a blessed week, and I'll see you soon.